So I'm gonna ask the question, but it is very much, you guys just have a discussion. We're not trying to make it real strict. We wanna hear stories, see some personality, whatever. So I'll ask the question, but let's start by saying your name and what year you were Toad Master, but do you remember what years?
I don't remember what.
How about
year.
your name? We'll just start with your name.
Okay. You were there the first one, though. That's a lot easier.
Well, I don't really remember. I think it was like 82, but I'm not sure. But I stayed from 82 for 9 years.
Okay.
And the reason we moved into Conway, on the 8th year, it flooded out at the river and you couldn't stay out there. So we had to come in. But I was ready to, the first year I went out there and I was ready to start the toad races and had people lined up ready to start. And Dr. Fred Gordy and his wife were sitting real close to the beginning of the races. And he got up off of the mat where he was sitting on and came up, and he wasn't going to race a toad, he was just going to watch it. And he came up and he whispered in my ear, he said, "Your britches are unzipped." Well, I reached down and sure enough they were. And what I had done, Frank Rivers had let us use a pair of trousers that was really nice looking, but the zipper was broken at it. And if I got in a bus and came back to Conway to change britches, it would have been probably a couple-hour ride because it took that long to get.
Yeah,
Traffic. That's for sure.
And so he said, "Let's see if we can help you." And he said, "Does anybody in the crowd have any safety pins?" Well, he found 7 safety pins from women in the crowd, and he started pinning me back up. The Log Cabin Democrat was there, and they took pictures of him pinning the zipper up and put it on the front page of the Log Cabin and said, "Dr. Gordy saved a day for Toad Suck." but that was that's something that probably nobody knew about. A whole bunch of people didn't know about that. And let me tell you another thing. They always got celebrities to come and be in the celebrity toad races. They got head coaches at the University of Arkansas. Ken Hatfield was the head coach. He took over from Frank Broyles. And he had the UCA coach and the Hendricks coach and the mayor and just 24 people became, and Bill Clinton and Chelsea were 2 of
Jim
them.
Tucker.
And so
I remember being there
when Ken Hatfield was ready to race a toad, they had the toad little mats down and had lanes that you could keep your toad in. And he was in this lane, let's say over here. And when you want to make your toad jump, you hit beside them, real close to them, and they jump, and then he goes up and he hits it. Well, just as he came down, the toad jumped over, and he hit it and squashed it. Well, it looked like it was dead. So I picked it up and put it in a cardboard box, and Ken Hatfield left soon after that, and he had tears in his eyes, and he's thinking that he had killed this toad, and it would hurt his feelings. He still doesn't know that he didn't kill the toad. If you let him know, I would like for you to, I don't know whether he's still alive or not.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah.
But he needs
I've got
to,
his cell phone number. I can call him.
well, you need to call him and tell him that he did not kill the toad, because when everybody was gone, I started to get the toad out of the cardboard box, and bury it out there, and when I did, it started jumping around. And so,
I remember one thing we'd do when they'd have celebrities, every once in a while we'd get a big bullfrog.
Yeah,
And you'd go out there
Yeah.
and give it to somebody and see who would debate or try to disqualify them.
boy, he could jump, the bullfrog could jump from here to that thing over there.
One leap.
yeah.
One leap.
Tell us about another story. Woody, what about you? What's something that jumps out that is part of your career?
Jumps out. I see.
Jumps
what
out.
you're saying. That was good. That was good.
Well, I really, the number one thing I remember, the year Jim turned the Toad Suck duties over to me, it was that year that the flood happened. And just how remarkable it was that it came together, and of course it continues today just like it started. You'd think it was planned, but that was a pretty remarkable year. I remember we had toad races downtown, and of course it'll wear you out in a day going down there doing those toad races and doing all the other things. And I remember they had a lazy boy chair at the fire department, and I'd run over there every once in a while to get a break. And of course the kazoo band, thank you for reminding me of that. Milton Davis was really the father of the kazoo band, and he bought a lot of kazoos, and the band would start out with about 5 or 6 of us, and then people would see how much fun it was, and they'd join the band. Didn't require any skill whatsoever.
You just had to be breathing so you could blow in that kazoo.
That's about the only instrument I could play.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so things like that, golly gee.
Tell us about
Somebody
these
else.
shirts too, or these quilts in front of us here.
Oh,
Mr.
Jim,
Stone, tell us about these.
tell us about your quilt, Jim.
Oh, well, what happened is, we bought the T-shirts down at the Toad Suck store. And when I gathered 9 of them, I didn't know what to do with them. I just had them at home. And then my daughter had just found out someone could make quilts out of them. So she took them and they made the quilts out of them. But she also had the T-shirts of the Jim Stone Elementary School. And they put both of those in both of these things. If you want to get a good picture of it, you'd have to stand up and hold it out. You know, you couldn't.
This one down in the corner is, I remember Lanny Grissom came up with that design. It's 1996, and it has all the old pictures up to that point.
Well, let's hear from some of the other guys.
Yeah, young guys on the back row. and I
Did you
use
work?
that term
You work
loosely.
with both of these guys?
Yeah, I worked with all the Toad Masters, so.
Tell them who you are.
I'm Marty Sikes, and I started out at Toad Suck, out at the park, Toad Suck Park, and was asked to come help Jim Stone and to do the races and do the interviews and all those things. And we had gymnastics mats, and it was about 217 degrees on those gymnastic mats. There was not a tree at Toad Suck Park. Not anywhere close to where we were anyway. There was no shade. And so those little kids would just fry their knees, on those mats. But yeah, I started, I don't remember exactly what year it was that I started. But I did it 26 years. And of course we were downtown, but I was out there at Toad Suck with Jim Stone, and then we moved downtown, and then worked with Woody, and then Brent Chalker, and then you, and how many years have you been?
This is my 25th.
25th year. So
Yeah.
I did I was like the announcer for the Toad races, and I actually got asked to be the Toad Master on multiple occasions. They asked me, when they were trying to fill that gap between after Woody, and I just didn't feel like that the timing was right, and I thought it needed to be, I thought it needed to be an educator. So so I didn't ever become the Toad Master, but I had a lot of fun doing and working with these guys, and there was nobody that had higher energy than Jim Stone in starting those races, and
Yeah.
that's a fact. And
Yeah.
I mean, even you're not a third of his age, you're a half his age, and but I'm serious. I mean, he would run up and down and run up and down and run up and down, and so I learned from the best right there on getting the races started and stuff, and but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and my kids grew up doing toad races and
Don't forget the Toady Woody.
the Toady Woody,
That's right.
yeah. And
On
it's
your mark, get
there's
set,
a lot of
Toad.
great memories,
Oh, yeah.
We went through a lot of storms, a lot of floods, a lot of electrical problems in the water and things like that. I mean, but and then I was chairman one year. I went through back then. They called it the Toad Council, and so I served it through the chairs of the Toad Council, and I was chairman one year, and that was the year that the Tonight Show came, and they wanted to come down to Hickville, Arkansas, and make fun of us, and we just weren't going to allow them to do it, were we, Woody?
That's right.
And so the director said they wanted to film people sucking on toads, and I said, no, you can't do that. It'll make them sick. And I said, we're not a bunch of hicks. This is a festival. It's a family festival. It's the second largest festival in the state of Arkansas. We're not gonna allow you to come in here. And he said, well, we can do whatever we want because we're here and we can do whatever we want. And I said, no. I said, that cable that runs from your camera, and they had hundreds of feet of this cable because it all ran through some kind of through a telephone line. I said, it's actually hooked up to my building, and I own that building. And I said, I can pull that plug at any minute. And he said, you wouldn't do that, would you? And I said, absolutely. If you're going to make fun of us, because that's not what we're about, you could do a great show, you can film, you can do all this stuff, and you can participate and be part of this, but we're not going to allow you to come down here and ruin our festival by making fun of it.
Yeah.
And I said, we like to laugh and have fun too. That's fine, but you're not going to take people and ask them to suck on a toad, because I said it could make them really sick. So, and they didn't, and they kind of changed venue. They kind of changed directions, but we about lost Woody that day. We had to lay him down on the sidewalk behind the old chamber building. He got so mad that day but he didn't lose his cool with them, but they were treating us like a bunch of backward hillbillies.
I think the line that got them best is when you said they could do this or they could leave.
Yeah, that's right.
And,
Okay, yeah, that's right. But yeah, I've had a lot of great memories and got a lot of great stories too. But
Oh, yeah.
Who was the most famous? He talked about President Clinton. Who was your most famous?
probably President Clinton, Governor Clinton back then, but there was a lot of celebrities that came and we had a lot of TV personalities from the Little Rock stations and our worst years were the election years because all the candidates that ran for anything, I don't care if you were running for constable, they showed up to race a toad, and so
They wanted to be VITs.
they wanted
all
to be
did.
very important toads, and so the toad race, the VIT races lasted a lot longer during election years.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
I think some of the warmest parts though, and I know y'all agree with this, you'd have some little kids that would come up and they would catch their toad, they would raise their toad or take care of it. They may have it for a week and feeding
Yeah.
it. And how many times did I have kids stop me and say, now, what do toads eat? And I found myself having to go back and find out real answers.
I can't believe the professor didn't know the answer to they eat bugs. Woody.
I know it, but I wanted to be sure about that.
Yeah, they do.
Because, your first inclination, oh yeah, they eat bugs. And I said, well, are there any certain kind of bugs they want to eat? So we did a little research and found out we were telling the kids truthfully what to do. And then they would have practice. And then during the week before Toad Suck Day, a lot of people thought it was only a one-day event. And, and I remember talking about how there's about 2.5, 3 weeks before Toad Suck Days, you start going to the schools. When the Girl Scouts have a meeting, when the Boy Scouts, and you really have to become an expert in toadology. and because you have to tell them how to find toads, how to care and taking care of toads, how do you practice racing and train them. Toad training is really important. And all of those things, you make up silly things, but you want it to be realistic and legitimate to where you've got a role or a model to play in front of the kids. And it's sort of fun to come up with stuff like that. Some of the best ones, somebody would see what we were doing and they'd come up and say, well, tell them this.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They'd have some neat name.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, there was some years it would just turn off cold, really cold,
Oh.
and so the toads would go underground. And I remember going out and doing toad procurement. We would do that a lot. And I remember, Glenn, you were in charge one year of toad procurement, and I don't remember where you went to Tucker Creek or someplace, and y'all found hundreds. But then we started paying kids to bring in toads. And one kid came down to the studio one day, and he
It was
had
$1 a toad.
He had 2 5-gallon buckets of toads.
Yeah.
And so I sent him to the chamber, and I said, take them down there and go in and say that you're, just dump them out, and they'll start counting them. And I don't think they ever counted those kids' toads. I think they just gave him a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And because they said, well, how many do you think you had? And I mean, those 5-gallon buckets were 3/4 full.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just, I don't know how the toads didn't suffocate. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I will say this, that I have 4 grandchildren now, and my oldest granddaughter has gotten to race toads the last couple of years. And it's been a lot of fun for me to go back and to be able to race toads. And with my granddaughter, it was a lot of fun. So I got a couple of 4-year-old grandsons that'll be there this year to race
Good.
toads. So
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah,
When I was appointed assistant superintendent, Mr. Stewart said I could go and encourage people to come to Toad Suck anytime I want to. So every school in Conway, I went from kindergarten classes through the 8th grade. I went to every classroom, and I had a little cage. You see the cage right here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And I put 2 toads in it.
Yeah.
And if Tom Ratliff was principal of a school, and he had a teacher named Miss Curtis, I would have one of the toads named Tom Ratliff, and the other one named Miss Curtis. And then I'd go into another room, and Mrs. McGee, Tom Ratliff would still be in this, but Mrs. McGee would be the other toad. And every time I'd go out to the park, kids would come up and say, have you got Mrs. McGee in there? Yeah, I think I do.
there was a lot of Marty toads.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
parents telling their kids to name their toad Marty. So
Yeah.
The thing of it, you never knew when you were going to be stopped. Once the spirit of Toad Suck got going around about a week or so before, if you're in a grocery store, there'll be a kid come up to you and want to talk toad.
kind of like Santa Claus, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
How about the new crew? And I say new, the last 25
Yeah, the last
years.
25 years. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Marty and Brian did it for a while, and then when Marty sort of backed out, I had moved on. Like Marty, I kind of got in volunteering through doing. I started painting Toad Square. So Tim Morris started painting, Toad Suck Square way back when it originally got painted, and he did it the first 25 years. The last 5, I did it with him, and then he kind of handed me the reins and said, I'm out. I'm too old to be squatting around on this concrete. So I've done it the last, since then, and I have, some folks that have helped me over the years, and it's James and Peggy Paxton helped me now. But so I went through the Toad committee just like Marty, and I was chairman, and we were the Toad Suck family, and so After all that, you know, it kind of was like, I'm not ready to give up. Well, then, you know, Marty kind of bowed out and was ready to retire. So Brian pulled me in. And so for the last several years, we've been doing, and so I have a deep appreciation for what all of these gentlemen have done, because you really have to perform out there in front of the family and the kids. And even though it's hot and you're tired and you've been there all weekend, it takes a little bit more, you know, to maintain the status of your role out there. And so it's important to play the part and keep, you know, that tradition that these guys have laid out going. There's certain things that are expected, the Toady Woady that, you know, these guys have started, and you know how we start the races and all the tradition has been set, and so it's a high bar to meet, but I'm glad to be a part of it.
While we're doing this, I agree with everything you said there, but I think it's appropriate that we at least touch on and mention how it all got started. And the story that I know, and there may be other parts to it, but John Ward was the editor of the Log Cabin Democrat, and they were wanting, it seems like John got motivated by seeing another community that had a festival, and they wanted to have something that was rather unique. And so John and his newspaper staff and some other people, I'm sure, got together and started creating the legend of Toad Suck. And of course, there are real creative writers and people there. And it came up, they wanted to have something instead of the Peach Festival or the Strawberry Festival like we see on Hallmark.
We haven't been in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't been in a Hallmark movie. But there's always hope.
Yeah.
But they got together and started coming up with this stuff, and then they formed a committee, and a lot of real creative people got together, and next thing you know, you got to have a special community that just goes with, say, let's have the Toad Suck Daze, and then they DAZE, and all those things started going, and I think John came up with the legend of Toad Suck about the riverboat man tying it in with the river,
Yep.
and
Yep.
Yep, before
about
bars.
the men would drink
Suck
their,
on a
their
bottle.
moonshine, and they'd suck on it till they swelled up like toads.
That's right.
And one thing led to another. I'm sure, you know, one outlandish story led to a little more being attached to it. So it was probably.
Well, we've been here 3 hours already, so no, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
oh, I know it. But the thing of it, you really can't nail a lot of this stuff to any one person.
Oh, no.
It's just a combination of spontaneity.
Yeah.
Well, you got to, back in the day, we called it the Toad Council, and there were a lot of people that served on the council, and so you get ideas from all these different people from
Yeah.
all different walks of life and all different kinds of businesses that they're in, and people would just come up with great ideas. And so and so it expanded from there. And I remember that our craft show was at one time a juried craft show, and I don't know if it's still a juried craft show or not, but it's but really it brought the level of the crafts way up. And they weren't doing the carnival stuff and the little trinket stuff, and people came from other states to come and see the craft show, just like they do it. What's a big one up in Northwest Arkansas? Anyway, I can't even
War
think.
Eagle.
Yeah. War Eagle,
War
like
Eagle.
at War
Yeah,
Eagle,
okay.
you know.
Yeah, I knew
but,
that.
But then they get to raise toads while they're here.
Yeah.
And so, I was so proud when they finally put in the Toad Dome. It was covered, and because I remember
Yeah,
one
we've
year.
got it good now, don't we?
One year, when I was in charge of putting the toad races together, back when I was on the council, that's when I said, look, I need a little bit of money, and they said, well, we don't have money for that. And I was like, we got to have something. We got to have some mats that are with carpet. Let's do carpet. And I remember, I actually went down to the carpet center and I told Danny and Melissa Long. I said, look, I need some carpet. We're going to make mats for these kids to race on because these gymnastic mats are burning their legs and they're frying the toads out here. And so I don't remember if they all but gave me the carpet, and somebody built the platforms, and we had them in sections and taped them off, and man, it changed everything. But now with the covered dome and having it, you know, with shade and bleachers and all that stuff, it was, you know, it's really come a long way. I mean, it's the largest toad race in the world.
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
And it's normally the same weekend as the Kentucky Derby.
Yes,
The
the
Kentucky
Kentucky
Derby and the Kentucky Derby, that's
Yeah.
right, go hand in hand.
All the toad puns. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the toadaminiums, that the toads, you know, sort of stay in now. Those have been around a while. Now we have our second iteration of those, but
Toadaminium.
I think you were responsible for creating some of those
Yeah,
originally.
and put the satellite dish on there. And now they have wireless, where you don't even have to have a dish anymore.
Yeah, it's
so
all wireless.
You
they
know,
get all that.
Well, let me
Germany?
mention. I'm gonna tell a story that nobody knows about this, and it probably is not even supposed to be attached to Toad Suck Daze, but it happened, and I'm involved with it. Groucho Marx had a program called "You Bet Your Life." If you remember that on TV.
They're not that old.
All right. When he retired, Bill Cosby took over as the master ceremonies for You Bet Your Life. He finally decided he was going to quit, and he was going to do 3 more shows, and he was going to have 18 people that was involved with that he was going to have 18 people to compete against each other to be on 3 shows, because he used 6 people for each show, and they were going to tape them all at one time. So if we get 18 people up there, he tapes one with 6 people, another one with 6 people, another one with 6 people. Well, I decided that I wanted to try out for it. And there were 112 people from Arkansas decided they wanted to try to get on it. And I used Bill Clinton as I used Bill Clinton. I said, this toad's named Bill Clinton, and this other one's named Bill Cosby. And so I was able to manage, when I got out there, we did it in North Little Rock, and there were 112 people, and I got to try out at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
That's how long it took us to get through. But 2 weeks later, I got notified that I went to Philadelphia for 3 days. We stayed up there, and I've got to tell this because it's funny, but it probably doesn't have a whole lot to do with this. But when I went up there were 18 people that were supposed to come. I rode on a plane up there, and they came and picked us up. The TV people came and picked us up and took us to a motel or hotel in Philadelphia. And there were only 8 people that they picked up the day that they got me, because they didn't all come in on the plane at the same time. I was the first one in a van, and the van had an aisle in the middle, 4 seats on each side, and they'd come in and you could sit down, and I was the first one on, so I got up right behind the driver. Another lady came on, she was the second one, and got up and sat down beside me, which was the same side of the aisle as I was. And she was sitting there, and as we were riding along, she said, "What's your claim to fame?" And I didn't know what she's talking about, but I said, well, I'm going to have me a little bit of fun. And I had that top hat in a great big old box. And so I said, well, I'm a rattlesnake charmer. And I said, I've got my rattlesnakes in this box. You want to see them? and I acted like I was gonna open it. Well, she jumped up and jumped in the lap of the driver. He ran off the road. He nearly had a wreck. He stopped, finally got it stopped, and he turned around and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I didn't know she was gonna jump up and jump in your lap. I was just trying to have some fun." He said, "Stop doing that." So I stopped doing it. But you know, when she got through, she didn't come back and sit by me. She went on the other aisle, way back, as far back as she possibly could. Then we got over to the station, to the depot hotel, and there was a lady over there that was a member of a group of ladies that came from Phoenix, Arizona, that were acrobatic people. She was 65 years old and was more agile than 16, 17-year-old kids were today. When we practiced to get ready, Bill Cosby introduced her, and when she came out, she did a cartwheel and the splits, and he nearly fell off the stage. And he talked about all the people that the uniforms that I had on and everything. And then we tried, and boy, every once in a while, you'd see her. You'd see her. You see that?
Oh, yeah. She's got her leg
Oh,
all
yeah.
limp on.
She'd take her foot and put it anywhere
Yeah.
above her head, and she kept came sort of took in with me. And the last day up there, she said, "Would you eat breakfast with me?" So I went down to eat breakfast with her, and I got some biscuits, and I ate my biscuits, and I wanted some more, so I raised my hand, and she said, "Put your hand down." And boy, when Foofy Harlan said, "Put your hand down," you put your hand down. Well, I put my hand down, and she raised her foot up and did this way up in the air. The waiter came over. He got me some more biscuits, and I ate them. And she said, "Now, if you need anything else, you let Foofy know, and I'll get it for you." Well, when I got home, I told my wife about Foofy. And I went over to Hallmark store to get a card to send to someone that had a birthday. And I was looking at the cards, and I saw a card that had all of these women from Phoenix, Arizona, and they were in a pyramid, and Foofy was right up on the top. And so I bought it, and I took it home, and I showed it to my wife, and I haven't seen that picture again.
Imagine that. Because during the show, didn't she put her foot up on your shoulder?
Yeah, well, yeah. I've got this. You've got this whole show in here, but I can't see it because you don't have anything to show it on. But she didn't win anything because she and her partner were were betting all of their money, and when you bet a whole lot of money, they ask hard questions. And so when she didn't win anything, Bill Cosby said, "I'll tell you what, if you will, I'll put this chip on my shoulder, and if you can lift your leg and knock it off without any trouble, then I'll give you and your partner $500 each." And so she did it without any trouble. Now, me and my partner won $1,000 each. The other person and his partner won $5,000 each. So,
Wow.
so we didn't win a whole lot, but we got enough to
You're talking about money, and that's probably a good time to talk about another real important thing that's an outcome of Toad Suck Daze.
Yeah.
Of course, it was designed to have community spirit, have fun, just celebration of our community, but it also gave us a wonderful opportunity for not-for-profits to have bending stands and different things to raise money for scholarships. And of course, Toad Suck, the council itself, raised money for scholarships. But there's actually, over the years, time you count what the Toad Suck Committee did and what all the other not-for-profits did, phenomenal amount of money went to support students getting an education. And it's pretty neat when
Yeah.
all you
Was
do is
Conway
have fun.
County, I mean, Faulkner County, Conway County, and Perry County, right? Students?
I
that
can't
were
remember
eligible.
that, to be honest.
And
The uniform has changed over the years, so Brian, tell us about the modifications you made when you came on board.
Well, when I first came on in 2000, I borrowed Woody's, and it was silk, and it was really shiny, but man, it would stick to you. I know you probably remember that, but it would stick to you, and I was sweaty, and man, it was something. But yeah, I had my own kind of design and had the nice green. It's a little bit more breathable. And the year of the 25th anniversary, we got some silver piping on it, so it's jazzed up a little bit. And did you guys both had vests and bow ties, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have vests? You
No,
didn't have,
no.
You just had a bow tie
I did both
Yeah.
tie and the coat.
and the top hat.
And
so
I don't know who made the coat. I do know who gave me the breeches that had the zipper broken. But I don't know what I've done with the coat or the,
You gave the coat to me.
Did I?
One of them.
okay, well, you still got it.
And, no, I gave it,
Brian?
to Brian, and I don't know where it is now.
And well, where's my cage where we had my toads?
And I never saw it. I remember when I
That's
was teaching at Sally Cone when you came through and
Yeah.
yeah, and you were showing everybody the toad. The kids loved it, and so that was a lot of fun.
You know, when I remembered when I went over to Sally Cone, went into his classroom, when I got through presenting or trying to get them to come to Toad Suck, he came up to me after it's over with and he said, "How did you get to be Toad Master?" And I said, "Well, they asked me." And he said, "Man, I would really like to be Toad Master sometime." Well, later, when I had been Toad Master 9 years and Woody had been a Toad Master a couple of 3 years and somebody else had been a year, then he was old enough to be a Toad Master, and so they asked me, and I said, "Well, have you asked Brian Ratliff?" I don't know whether they asked him or he volunteered or whatever, but he has been, and he's been a great Toad Master
Yeah.
ever since. So
And you have some special transportation, or you did for a while. Tell us about
I do.
that.
I have it's actually a Cushman Golfster, an old golf cart from late 50s, early 60s, and it's all painted up green, and we call it the Toadster now.
it
And,
used to smoke.
It does.
Bad.
It's those two-stroke motors, man. I tell you, they're bad. So,
I
but,
mean, you couldn't even, I mean, all the kazoo band would just fall out dead on the, no, I'm just kidding.
yeah. We've got it a little bit better now.
Yeah,
but
it is
not-
better. It
so,
does run better.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and that's been a good thing, a good addition. I know you guys would have loved to have had something like that, and we have the Toad Dome. Like I said, we have it made. We've got tents and fans
Shade
and all that
fans
good
and
stuff.
all that.
So
We do. When did you may have this as a question, but when did they start giving away the trophies for the winners? Does anybody, you guys remember how far back that goes?
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, today
we were doing that
somebody
out
gets
at
a
out at the
trophy.
river. I mean, they were getting participation ribbons and
Yeah.
and there was a trophy and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's been
Long time then.
Yeah, I mean, they probably started. That's probably something that the log cabin may have sponsored those trophies early on. I don't know, but the trophy's been around for. I mean, it wasn't a trophy like it is now, but it was a trophy.
yeah,
But,
Well, I remember one of the events was to see who could throw cow pies farther.
yeah,
And I
Jim.
think Bill Stevens won 3 years in a row. I said he could throw well, I forgot what I shot.
I was going to say something about the money for scholarships has been a great thing, and then but also something that ties in with the Toadmasters, being in the educators, being educators, and the connection with all the schools is that the toad races, each elementary school has their own toad race, and they send a champion to represent their school, and so that was always a fun time when they would come and do the race for education. and they started giving away computers for the classroom and money for, you know, whoever won got a trophy and I believe a computer too, and then the classroom got a computer. You know, and back in the day, you know, I mean, the computers were about the size of this room, so they'd have to ship them in on a, you know, no, it's not quite that bad, but you know, that has really created a lot of competition among the schools, which is fun, and so each of the schools competing, and then it would bring in teachers and students to cheer them on from, you know, from their school. So that was cool.
Walmart started that, I guess, my second year, and I'm going blank on the manager's name. Do you remember?
I remember her face, and she was about this tall, you know, but I can't think of her
Jamie
name.
Bray. Yeah,
Jamie Bray. That's, yeah.
He
was the manager
He
then.
started that, and the first winter was at Eastside Elementary. One of my students, where I was principal out there at the time, and then the next year, another student from out there won. People were saying that it was rigged, but it wasn't. But
Do you guys remember when there was an accusation that there was a imported toad, and we had to have a biologist from UCA come in to make sure that they were all, I don't know if you remember that, it was a Brazilian toad or something that weighed about
Steroid
5
induced.
pounds.
yeah,
Yeah, stereo.
Yeah.
About every
Toad
year we had these steroid-induced
Toadroids,
toads.
toadroids.
Toadroids.
Toadroids,
And,
yeah.
yeah, toadroids, that's right. Yeah.
And I remember Mr. Stone and Mr. Cummins would say, you know, you can make your toad stay in its lane, no turpentining
Yeah.
and no
No
toad
flipping, no
roid.
flopping, no,
Yeah.
let the toads do the hopping.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
always fun, and we still try to do the same things that these guys have always done. You know, you're talking about education a minute ago, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that these two guys outside of my dad and my granddad's, these guys are my heroes, not just because of Toad Suck Daze, but Mr. Cummins was my first grade principal, and then he moved into the middle school, and he was my sixth grade principal, and then Mr. Stone was my junior high principal, and so I've looked up to these guys for a long, long time, and I feel blessed to be able to be buddies with you guys and to have that common tie, not just with school and.
Were
but
you
with
over
Toad
there
Suck-
when Rosie Butts was over?
That's a different story for a different time.
I know we're on camera. How many licks did
Yeah.
you have
I'm
to
not
get
sure
on?
this. I'm not sure on that one, Mr. Stone. But
I want to make sure that we don't run out of time and memory on the card. So
Okay.
what I'd like to do, I'd like to hear some more stories, but I think it would be great to hear what you guys say when you're about to start a race, and
Okay.
if you could start it, then maybe all 5 of you could do it together on.
okay,
If you guys could.
Toads, on your mark.
Want to start it, then the whole rest of you jump in. I think it'd be great to hear that.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Start us off, Mr. Stone.
On your mark, get
Get
set, Toad!
All right.
That's
I
awesome.
love it. I think that's
How many
great.
times do you believe that's been said?
Oh,
Well, how many times a day
A day.
on a Saturday is that said, you know? I mean, and how many times a year? Yeah.
What's the,
Toad.
What's the most common toad name you've ever heard aside from I don't know?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Toad.
I don't know. That's
Yeah, there's
Jumper.
Jumper and Floppy
Speedy.
and Speedy.
Speedy.
Yeah,
Speedy's a good
Speedy's a good one.
Horny.
Marty.
Did you say
Marty
Marty?
Toad. Marty Toad. Yeah, those were
Yeah, we're
people
going
I went to college with. Their kids racing toads, you know.
Yeah.
The
You were talking about famous people a while ago too. I remember when Charlie Daniels came to town, I got on his bus and got to talk to him. I said, "Hey, I got a great deal for you, Mr. Daniels. How about if we trade hats after the night's over? You know, I can come up on stage and I can give you my hat and you can give me yours." He said, "Oh, we're done. Get out of here, kid."
He said what? He said what?
He said, "No, we're done, kid. Get out of here." So, he was a nice guy. He was just playing, but it was fun to hang out with some of those guys. Eddie Money, he brought his family, and
Yeah.
and were you there the year with Eddie Money?
I think
Did you?
so.
Yeah, they came. He brought his whole family, and they raced toads, and that was neat to get to meet some of those guys like that too.
So like you said before we ran out of time, I want to make sure I get this on camera with all of these 3 gentlemen here. I know Brett's not here, but in honor of Brian's 25th anniversary, I made him a little gift, and I want him to open it here while
Oh my goodness.
his compadres are with him because they're all a part of it, and I want everybody to appreciate it.
Is it gonna explode?
No, it's not going to explode. We're not going to need the the dog sniffing.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
my-
man.
Oh, my goodness.
Look at there.
Look at that.
How about that?
Look like skis.
Yeah, I think
I'm telling you.
I think Woody and Jim are on that.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
How about that?
And Brett and
How fun.
Oh,
That's
my
cool.
on
gosh.
that one.
You see this, Mr. Stone? Over
Look at
here, here's Jim.
Yeah, I left off his cage though.
No cage on here. Wow, that
something.
is
Lord.
really, really
And
cool.
I got the toad skin there on the
I
toe.
see that.
And
I
the
see that.
tuxedo there on the collar.
There you
Man,
go.
are something
Good job,
else. Thank
man.
you. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
And the
that's
cool
wonderful.
Toady
Now, if
Woody.
it rains, don't wear them the first night during the rain.
That is super cool. Wow.
Don't get
If
them
it becomes a
muddy.
toad floater,
Yeah,
you can't wear them.
That's special.
that is. That's,
Well, I wanted you guys to all be
wow.
part of his story. I know you are part of the story. You're all part of the festival. So I thought this was a good time to pass that out to him.
Yeah, that's neat. That's very cool. Thank you, friend. I appreciate that.
There are a lot of kids that were impacted, a lot of relationships started and built through
Oh, yeah.
Toad Suck Daze. A lot of people that, I know you guys, many of you through Toad Suck Daze, so
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of that we'll never know about just
Yeah.
because of all the work that you guys put in.
I'm sure there's things we'll think about when we get home and say, oh, golly, I wish I'd have remembered that.
Well, you know, I have written all the stuff that I was supposed to say down, and I can't see it, so I can't read it.
We might take your script and just fill it all in for you. How'd it
I
be?
don't think you can read
Randy,
it
you got
'cause I
that
can't spell
VHS
it
player?
either. What? I can't spell things either.
You know, I tell you something I do, Mr. Stone. You used to teach pet.
Yeah.
Oh,
so-
yeah.
And I remember as a young teacher there in Conway that was part of what we got to do was go watch go to the pet class or whatever it is. And so I remember sitting there and that I realized throughout the whole day, not only were you teaching pet, but you were modeling it exactly the way it's supposed to be. And I don't remember, I don't know where it is. I don't know if I gave it to you or not, but we had an assignment we had to do, and I wrote a poem all about you. And
I didn't get it.
yep, and so, that was one of my favorite times as a teacher, not only because of you being the Toad Master, but the way you poured into the teachers at the school district and the way you loved them. And
Well, I tell you, I worked as hard as I could on the pet program because I thought that was an outstanding
I'll tell you.
educational program.
I don't teach a class with kiddos in it that I don't go back to the pet model
yeah,
today.
you're right. You're right.
I mean, it's marvelous.
Program
Terribly.
for effective teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I did from you guys too. I took that for Toadmaster, and I did the program for effective toading.
Ryan, it sounds like, you said Woody changed jobs a couple of times and you were involved. It sounds like someone was assigned to keep an eye on you. I
Yeah,
think
that could be, but
I'll tell you,
that's top secret.
I suspect that he has bypassed me and Woody both in the doing of Toad Suck. I really have heard great things about you,
Well,
Brian.
I've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and I just want to grow up to be like you guys. So
I'll tell you, I really do think Toad Suck has just been good for everybody in the community, to the best of my knowledge.
You know, when Toad Suck began, the economy in Arkansas was really at almost a depression, and they started it to try to help the economy, and it helped it a lot. That it didn't cost anything to go to Toad Suck. But,
Yeah.
you could spend some money there,
parents' favorite thing.
but it didn't cost anything to go there, and that's what.
Yeah.
That was a Woody.
Huh?
I think that was you that I heard saying that. It's your parents' favorite thing. Free.
I think downtown embraced it, and our city of Conway has done a great job expanding the downtown district, and Toad Suck is just a great draw for that. And,
Yeah.
it's a safe environment. You know, we've never, praise God, never had any, you know, anything major happen. You know, I mean, we have people fall, you know, tripping over a cord or something maybe and fall, but we've never really had any problems.
The train has never run over anybody.
Yeah, and the train comes through, it is
Yeah.
moving on.
Wave at the train.
Yeah,
Now,
A few
one of the-
totalities, but that's all. So.
yeah.
Every
Totally.
year,
Stanley
on
Ross.
Friday,
Oh my gosh.
it's almost a tradition that my wife and I will go downtown on Friday afternoon when they're setting up and,
Yes, sir.
and have our Toad Suck luncheon.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Oh,
you
we
get
used to
the
always
corn
go out the
dog,
side door of the
get
building.
The funnel cakes,
Yes, sir.
just all the junk food, you know. you
Chicken
get-
on a
Well, I tell
stick.
you,
Yeah.
when you get to be 91 and a half, you just about can't go anywhere.
Well, maybe you can catch a ride on the Toadster.
I know we're about out of time, but talk briefly about the partnership between the city and the chamber and the volunteers, because it ends at what time on 5 o'clock on Sunday? By 8 o'clock, you can't even tell there's anything going on.
Right.
Someone talk a little bit about the partnership.
As I understand it, is that, you know, of course, Toad Suck got started by volunteers. It was a very loosely organized group, and as it became more substantial and more a part of the community, then, you know, let's face it, it had to have something that it could be connected to on a full-time basis, because Toad Suck really required some attention year-long. And I think we were just fortunate that the chamber saw fit to add personnel over there. And I'm sure off-season, they do other things besides just Toad Suck. But once it gets into Toad Suck season, that's a pretty busy person. And
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't Margaret still do that?
yeah,
Yes.
I, having been on, you know, all sides of it, volunteered, and then, like Marty said, we were on the Toad Suck Daze used to be a separate committee where, you know, it would govern itself. It went from pure volunteers to it got big enough that it needed its own separate committee, and I think all of us were on that committee at one time, and it was as many as, you know, 30 people or so. With, you know, almost like a nonprofit would be, a board would be, where you had people from all, you know, all walks of life, all businesses in downtown. And then because it got, you know, too big and the financials got too much, the chamber wisely came in and took it back under their umbrella, and they've done a good job. Mary Margaret has been in, she probably came the same year I did. I think we have the same Toad Suck lifespan, but so we're in this 21, 22 years now together. She's been running this, and so I can tell you that she works year round. I mean, it's a year round job for her, not all day, every day, but there's a good part of her job every day that deals with Toad Suck. So it's I mean, from everything from, like he said,
I bet as she gets closer to the festival,
full time, yeah.
Yeah.
The vendors, the you know, the entertainment, the food, the
Carnival.
layout, the carnival. I mean, everything that comes into it, and then still, you know, we probably have 200 or more volunteers that show up at various parts of the weekend to just, you know, volunteer their time, and all that has to be coordinated. So, I mean, it's a huge undertaking to put the festival on from where we started in 1982 to where we are now, 41 years later.
Yep.
remarkable.
Well, I think Toad Suck has passed War Eagle even, because there's just a whole lot of people that come to Toad
I
Suck.
think it's the second largest in the state, isn't it?
Well, it was the second largest in the state behind Riverfest for a long time, and now that Riverfest is defunct, I don't know that we haven't assumed the largest.
Well,
We're
Conway
definitely
get-
the largest free festival.
Yeah.
Conway's
Yeah,
about
for
to
sure.
get up there too, because we're just growing so fast.
True.
And it's one of the only, well, the biggest family focused versus
Right.
Right.
just adults, right?
Right. And do you know the numbers on It's more than $1 million. Is it close to $2 million that we've given away in scholarships? And
I think it's a couple $1 million at this point over the course of the festival. You know, Brad and those guys have those things at hand. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, it's a substantial amount. And the scholarships are endowed now, so they can never go away. We contribute more to them every year and grow the endowments, but they will always be there in the festival's honor. And so I think that the life of the festival and how it's grown and cemented itself into the fabric of our city, and that people. I've been on other festivals and other committees. I was on Riverfest for probably 15 years. We sell more merchandise from our festival with Toad Suck stuff on it than almost any other festival you can imagine. And that's a testament to the quirky name that Woody mentioned, that they started it, that would sort of cement the festival, but also I think the love for the festival and the what it cements. Because I'll buy probably 15 shirts every year and send them to my clients all across the country because
And they
ask.
love 'em.
Yeah, they ask for them and they want to wear them. So I think it's a part of Americana now, and we just get to be those that a little piece of it that present it.
Yeah.
When I was on the Bill Cosby You Bet Your Life show,
Yeah.
everybody that was part of that show got a T-shirt, and I saw some of them wear 'em at a later time. So it really is, and they didn't have to pay for me.
Well, that's good.
Gentlemen, thank you for your investment in Toad Suck Daze. This has been great to hear the stories. I know there's a lot that you'll remember as soon as you drive off. You'll go,
Yeah.
I wish I should have said that, or wish I'd have said that. But you invested a lot of time and effort. A lot of people have been reached because of that. Anything
Well-
else, Brian, you want to cover?
Not that I know of, but I appreciate you guys very much.
Yeah,
Thank y'all
this is
for,
good.
couldn't have done it without you two.
Oh, yeah, for
Y'all are-
sure.
There we go.
Thank
The
you.
bomb.
Absolutely.
Give us your horse